Is spending money really a wasteful thing in your life? And I think it's interesting to talk about this because in my past, I've wasted a lot of money. And a lot of that money I wasted was on stuff like going to Starbucks or going on a road trip somewhere just because I had some time off and I didn't want to be at home and I wanted to escape. So I would just hit the road. And next thing you know, you're filling up your gas tank. You're just doing some random thing somewhere. You're going to see a movie. You're eating out. And maybe it's another couple $100 that gets spent in an evening. And it's not really for anything. It's not something that I planned to do, really. It's just something I did. And as long as the credit card would work, then I would kind of forget about life for a little while. And it was sort of therapeutic in a way, but then the dark side of it was I would feel even more insecure about life later because I didn't really have that money to spend, and it wasn't really good stewardship. It was just a bad habit that I couldn't really break free of. Then looking back in hindsight, there was also a lot to be said for the fact that I didn't feel like I had a lot of freedom in my life. I didn't feel good about where I was on a personal level. And so there was that motivation to avoid being around my home, and those are reasons why maybe we spend extra time at work or extra money going out to do things. And it's not because I really was wanting to do the things I was doing. It was more because I just was trying to kind of escape. And when we try to escape things because we feel like life is in some way bad or something, that's not healthy. So that's something we should work on. However, there's also something to be said for the fact that there's stuff you can spend money on that you really enjoy. Things that make your life better. Things that enrich you or put you in a better position to even help others or meet your potential. And a good thing to do is to just think, well, what if I bought this thing? And then I fast forward months or years into the future. Would I ever think, I wish I could trade that for the money I spent? If I could just get it back, would I do that? And if the answer is no, absolutely not. I would never want to trade this thing I bought for my money back. Then it's probably not a terrible choice. And I have a few things that are like that. Stuff I spent money on years ago. And it's still something that I cherish and I enjoy today. And then there's other things where, I spent a lot of money, like I was saying, at things like Starbucks or whatever. And I don't even remember how the money was spent. It just kind of flowed out of my wallet and disappeared as quick as I got my hands on it. So you really want to think, am I getting value out of this that's going to endure the test of time? And if the answer is yes, you probably don't need to worry too much about that expense. And the other thing that I would throw out there is that sometimes we worry about big expenses, like, can I afford to do that? And the truth is, it's not so much the big expenses, it's not the deliberate, mindful things that we choose to spend our money on that set us back. It's the little nickel and dime stuff that just isn't mindful and is not something we really plan out or even think very much about. We just kind of go on autopilot and become wasteful. And those things are what you want to cut out. But there's also something to be said for the fact that you have to have balance. And on one hand, it's important to be a good steward of the resources that you have. But it's also important to realize that money is just a number. That doesn't mean that you should run it into the negative. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't think about how you can plan for the future. But you also should remember that the reason why you strive to have it is so that you can do something with it. And I think it's easy to go ditch to ditch. On one hand, you can think to yourself, well, you only live once, so I'm not even going to worry about paying off those credit cards. I'm just going to go to the mall right now because maybe I'll be dead tomorrow, but at least I'm going to enjoy this cup of coffee and teriyaki chicken today. And that's not healthy. But then you can also go the other direction and have this attitude of almost a fear of going backwards, a fear of going without, a fear of being inadequate. And especially when you have overcome a lot of those other bad habits, you can get to the point where you start kind of looking at money like a score, and then you're just paranoid about everything you do. And that can be unhealthy on the other side of the spectrum too. I think the key is to find balance. And I think in my life, that's something that I have kind of, I guess it seems haughty to say mastered it, but it's something that I'm a lot better at now than I used to be, because I did go through a time when I wasted a lot of money. And then I went through a time after that where I just really wanted to save every single penny, to where just even spending anything gave me a sense of anxiety, because I thought about all the times when I was wasteful in my life and I wanted to make up for that. And I didn't want to, I guess if you will, backslide into those old bad habits. And now I think I'm pretty good about always making sure that I'm meeting certain benchmarks, certain targets of where I want to be. But at the same time, I know you can't take it with you when you go. And if you don't live your life today, there's not really any point. So I do spend money on things that I really enjoy. Things which I don't, under any circumstance, believe I would regret. And the truth is, that doesn't really bother me too much. It doesn't bother me to spend money on things when I know I'm going to be truly grateful to have them. And then I also think a lot of it comes down to, what is your purpose in life? All the things we do can potentially enrich someone else's life. Even things that we do for ourselves can enrich other people's lives, because when we enrich ourselves, we have more to draw from with which to inspire and help other people. You can't help other people if your own well has run dry. So let's say that you wanted to write a book successfully. What are you going to write about if you don't have any knowledge? If you don't have any experiences to go off of? If you don't have anything cool to give you a sense of depth and perspective, then what are you going to write about? But if you spent your life reading literature and stories and movies and immersing yourself in game worlds and all sorts of different cool things, meeting people, then you might have a lot to write about. So it doesn't necessarily have to be completely fruitless for you to invest in yourself. If you invest in yourself, then you have more to give. And sometimes down the road, you might even look and realize that if you put time and effort and money even into things that bring happiness and joy into your life, you might wind up compounding your own returns, because at that intersection where your personal passion and your interests intersect with the ability to make money, you could wind up doing more with yourself than you ever thought possible when you were just, working your day job. But it all has to start with doing things that you love. And that's really the barometer. It's not, are you spending money or are you saving money? It's not any of that. It's just let go of the little wasteful things that don't give you any value. And then also, don't be afraid to make significant investments in yourself when you discover an opportunity to do something which really feels meaningful to you. And finally, I guess when you're trying to figure out, how do you know the difference? How do you know what's wasteful, what's excessive, what is good stewardship, what is not good stewardship? And I'm going to end with this. I think it's very, very simple. You just know. You know when you're being a bad steward of the resources in your life. You know when you're making bad decisions. And you also know when something you're doing is coming from the right place. And that's true for our actions, it's true for our finances, it's true for every part of our life. You know the content of your heart if you're honest. You know if you're doing the right thing. You also know when you're not. It's just that gut feeling of, you know what, man, I just am not doing the right thing right now. Or the feeling of, well, you win some, you lose some, but at least I know it's coming from the right place. It's like investments. You can put money into something, and then you lose money on an investment maybe. But is that really a big deal? Not really. Not if you've done your best. At least you're investing in something, right? There's a lot of people who just waste all their money, right? So, we can take losses. We can take setbacks. We can take those unexpected changes of plan. The score, the balance in a bank account, whatever, none of it necessarily matters that much. As long as we know in our heart that we're doing something that contributes to our sense of purpose instead of detracting from it. And nobody else can tell you where that line is. But if you stop and you listen to your own voice of conscience, you will always know. And if you heed that small, still voice that tries to guide you and correct you and comfort you, then you're really never going to have a lot of problems. So trust yourself. And also listen to your own inner voice. Don't be too stingy. Don't be too wasteful. Find a middle ground in all things. And when in doubt, always ask yourself in the future, what is the likelihood that you'll regret the decision that you've made? And if you feel like in the future you'll look back and you'll be glad for the things that you're doing right now, then just remember that life has loveliness to sell, and buy it, regardless of the cost. Wherever you find yourself in your adventure, till next time, good luck and thank you.